Ladies and gentlemen. I thought that would be, you're okay. You're okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. This is the one and only meeting that public meeting we'll have actually of the rest of this year. And so it is December 10th of the year 2024. Again, thank you for your attendance. We have an agenda and we will follow it as outlined. We're going to begin with a public hearing. And so there's two items. I'll just go with them one at a time. So we're here to receive public comment on amendments to the fiscal year ending 2025 city budget. Anybody that would like to comment on that, we'd ask you to come forward this time and state your name for the record.
Please do so in an orderly fashion.
Okay, seeing no comment on that, we'll move to the second item, and that is receive a public comment on the surplus right-of-way vacation located at approximately 100 East and 620 South. We'd ask you to come forward at this time. Okay, seeing no comments, we'll move on to the regular session. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have an invocation by Councilmember Hawley, and then I will conduct the roll call. If everybody please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful to be gathered here this evening in this beautiful building and to discuss the many issues that are facing our city. We're thankful for all those who serve and volunteer and participate in the work of building the city, and we appreciate their efforts, and we're thankful for the freedoms that we enjoy in this country and the opportunity to shape our own destiny and to manifest our talents in different ways so that we can make this world a better place. And we're thankful for this time of year where we can celebrate the birth of our Savior and remember him especially and remember what he did for us. And we ask thee to bless us with wisdom and guidance as we discuss these important issues, and that we will look to find ways to serve those around us in our community. And we say these things in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, I will now conduct the roll call. Councilmember Hunter?
Here.
Councilmember Hawley?
Here.
Councilmember John?
Here.
Councilmember Carroll?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Here.
Okay, we'll now move on to item number 2. We have set a time aside that if anybody would like to address the mayor, the council, or senior staff, and anything that you would like, we would invite you to come forward and state your name for the public record and limit your comments to about 2 minutes. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and we'll move on to item number 3, and we'll hear from our city administrator. David?
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, we had our tree lighting event down at Robinson Park. I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to our Parks Department. I think they did a very, very good job this year decorating that park and getting all the lights up and making it look so festive for our city. And it makes such a difference to our downtown. Just want to thank them for that, and also just thank our public safety department. Thursday morning of Thanksgiving, I went down to grab a burrito because I didn't want to cook breakfast. We were already cooking enough. And our public safety department was down there also trying to grab something to eat. And they're here all the time, 24/7. They're prepared. And I just really appreciate our fire and police departments for the service that they give our community. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 4, our council reports, and I'll start with Councilmember Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a lot, but I did want to just mention the time and energy we've recently had the opportunity to participate in some interviews for city attorney, as well as the work session, going over the park survey. There was just a ton of solid information. You've made this comment many times, and I just maybe reiterate it. I try to, but how much work happens before this meeting so that this meeting is an efficient and effective meeting. And perhaps that can come across, if this is the first time anybody's looked at anything on this agenda, it can come across as having been maybe quick or abrupt or predetermined, but it's only a reflection of the time and energy for many hours prior to that and many weeks before. So I just really appreciate that. I had missed a couple meetings recently, and it was great to be back with you all and spend some time recently with the Christmas party. It was great to rub shoulders and visit with so many of our staff, and just appreciate everybody, especially this time of year, and wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councilmember Hawley.
Mayor, I just have one thing I wanted to share. It's a little bit more personal, but something I've been thinking about. I thought about writing it down because it's a pretty sad thing. Many of you may remember back in May, I talked about a student who graduated from the Life Skills group. I put up a picture for everybody to see it. Unfortunately, Anthony passed away this past Friday due to medical complications from the disease he'd been dealing with his whole life. He had Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it's something that affected one of his brothers who's already passed, and two of his other brothers who are still alive. And it was pretty shocking. I mean, it was something that it was known that he wasn't going to live to a ripe old age, but it's still abrupt and very tragic for the family. And I just have been thinking a little bit about it over the past 3 days, how much I appreciate the teachers who work with all those students day in and day out and are like a second family, and how they give these students an amazing life, an amazing experience. But then thinking about it in a kind of more spiritual sense, and not to diminish from the sorrow that I know the family is going through, but just for me personally, as I've been dealing with this loss, is just the miracles and the peace and the joy that we feel in this Christmas season, and the miracle that was Anthony's life, the miracle that was his body with all of its imperfections, and also the joy that comes from thinking about the memories that all of us shared with him and the joy that he brought to our lives, and then the peace knowing that that he's gone to a better place, and that he's able to run around now, and that he'll be reunited with his family, and that one day I'll get to see him again too. And so it's something that's very sad, but something that still can bring some joy as I think about what our Savior did for us, and thinking about that's the reason for the season, is his birth and what his life did for all of us. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share today, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember John.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Carroll.
Yeah, I do want to just say thank you to city staff for the Christmas party. That was really well put on. I really liked it. Thought it was a little bit more casual environment where we could talk to more people. That was really well done, really beautiful. So thank you for that. Additionally, we have our library director here, but I was going to mention this anyway. We are currently looking for new library board members, and we've had some applicants. We're going to be doing interviews to make some recommendations, and I think we have some really great people that could be on the library board. So look for that coming up in the next little bit, and that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Tater.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, with Tim's announcement about Anthony, I'm just thinking back, and Tim and I were at that graduation, and is Anthony the one that came out on stage in the wheelchair and everyone went crazy? Man, that was such a cool experience, and I remember talking to you about it then and after, about how I was just so impressed with those kids and everything that took place, and that's tough at this time of year, but we do have hope in things that we know, and then our thoughts and prayers now, certainly with Anthony's family. But I'm glad that I had that one experience, because I was so impressed by him and by the students' reactions and how impressed I was with all those kids. Really, really cool. Then I just want to express appreciation for the staff as well. I thought the Christmas breakfast was a good time. It was really fun. It was good to walk around and sit at different tables and have people ask me to leave and stuff. And so it was just really good. And appreciate, having a lot of experience with city employment. My dad was here for 30 years, and I was here for probably 12. I just really appreciate what the employees go through and how thankless it is, and just really appreciate everything that was done. And likewise, I just, like Councilmember Hunter, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and hope that it's all that you all would want it to be, including all those who are attendance today. Because we live in a wonderful time, but it doesn't mean there isn't heartache and different things, but we just muscle on and do the best that we can. So I appreciate all of you and everything that takes place here. So thank you.
Thank you for that report. For the mayor's report, I've just been reflecting a lot. It's just a great time of year. How many of you, we're all aware of, how people are just kind of coalescing around families, people they don't know. I went to an event just on a little street in our city, and they were brought gifts in for 13 families for Christmas. That's just one. I know schools that are taking in donations, businesses that are getting involved, so that hopefully nobody in this city goes without. And we can't solve it all, but neighbors, friends, school workers, co-workers, it feels good that people are watching over each other. I could only hope that very same thought and feeling could happen all year long, no matter what it was, not just a matter of a gift on a certain day. But we have a great city and good people that will do that. And I'm confident that they do it all the time, that needs are being met by their community. I had a great time just for a few minutes with Santa. Santa gets in my room, a park, wherever it is, Santa is the man. And I spent a little time with him in the fire truck. I got to the park and kids just flocked to him. And I got up on that little stage and just tried to introduce Santa Claus and turn those lights on, all at once. And it was it's one of the fun things that we do as a city, to see the kids rally around it, and that thing just lit up. And I just get a sense of pride when I drive by the park. I go down our main street, and our Parks Department, again, they just seem to do something a little bit extra every year. They've lit up the fire department. They've lit up other areas, and the police, something over here at City Hall. They talked to me at the Christmas breakfast, the party, about wanting to do something kind of grandeur next year to just one up this year. And I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty game for that. So appreciate that festive feeling. I had the opportunity on Saturday to go to a dinner with all the seniors that wanted to participate at the high school, where the honor students serve the seniors. There was about 260 of them there, and they feed them a great turkey meal. And I sat by Bob Bates. If anybody doesn't know who Bob is a World War II veteran. He came fully decked out in his uniform, and just whenever I'm around Bob, I could just talk to him forever, and he will talk to you about experiences that he's had, and he wears his uniform proudly, as he should. But I addressed him for just a few minutes, and I really believed I was looking at the greatest generation. They've been called that, and that's what they're known by, but in reality, they really are. They are the greatest generation. They paved the way for us, and I'm just hoping that we can do the same for those that go behind us. But great people. I feel very satisfied in the city that we are making good efforts to make sure our seniors feel loved, appreciated, needs are met, physical needs with their body, but even at the rec center, we have a very vibrant community that get together and socialize on a daily basis, and then they come together for events like that. Now they're going to go look at lights as a group, and about 70 of them will peel off and do that. And it's a neat thing when they're all together. You can just see that they're all friends, and their common thread is the senior center, this city, and just raising their families here. And it's just a neat thing. And then one other thing, and maybe I should have mentioned this first because it's very anticlimactic of what I've already said, but I want to make sure that it's stated on the public record. And as Councilmember Hunter said, we do a lot of work sessions leading up to actionable items and big packets that will come that are reviewed, and so that we have questions and that we feel like we have a pretty good idea, and then we come together to deliberate and do that in front of the public. But in one of our last work sessions, we met with our state representatives. Not all of them, but we had 3 of them. Our senator, 2 of our representatives. And I think it's important for people to know and to record that we talk with them, we build relationships with them, we listen to them, and they listen to us. And when the session starts, it's kind of a fast 45 days where there's a lot of things going on. So we get to them early, and we try to network with them. And I really appreciate their efforts to be there to listen to us. And when that session starts, they'll be very open to, as things come about, asking our opinions prior to votes, things like that. So there is a good relationship between American Fork City and those who represent us at a state level. So that being said, we'll move on to the common consent agenda, consisting of the 5 items before you. Any noted changes on the minutes? Okay. If there's no any questions, I would take a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve the common consent agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember John,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hawley.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Okay, item number 1 on action items is we'll review an action on resolution approving adjustments to the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 budget. That was a point of our public comment, our public hearing this morning.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the resolution adopting the budget adjustments for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 budget.
Motion by Councilmember Taylor.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hunter. Any discussion on this motion? I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Hawley.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Item number 2 is a review and action on approval of a pioneer agreement with White Horse Developers for the AF PD South improvements along 950 West. Any questions?
I'm happy to move to approve the pioneering agreement with White Horse Developers for system improvements along 950 West as part of the AFPD South project.
Okay, have a motion by Councilmember Carroll.
Second.
Second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hawley.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Item number 3 is a review and action on approval of 4 escrow agreements for system improvements of the recently approved the flats at Lakeshore Landing Developments, Block 1, Plat B, Block 2, Plat D, Block 3, Plat F, and Block 4, Plat H.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the escrow agreements with IMH SLC, American Fork LLC, for system improvements on the flats at Lakeshore Landing Block 1 Plat B, Block 2 Plat D, Block 3 Plat F, and Block 4 Plat H.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Hawley. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hawley.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Okay, item number 4 is a review and action on a resolution approving a land use map amendment known as Roderick Catalyst Business Park located at 100 East and 1700 South on approximately 18.69 acres. The property proposes to change from shoreline protection designation to the design industrial land use designation. Patrick, why don't you just lead us into this a little bit?
Thanks, Mayor. This has gone through Planning Commission on 2 occasions. First meeting it was tabled. I think there was some considerable discussion on it. Initially, staff led out with a recommendation to deny the application to Planning Commission. For some background, one of the long-range envisioning plans that the city is working on is related to our harbour area. We're looking at a small area plan to identify that space as a future use in line with the Wasatch Choice vision, which looks at open space and creating new town centres, developing underutilized areas and resources, which I think our harbour would fall into. So initially we started with that because the projected area for that small area plan included this. We discussed it with some of our team and working with one of the consulting groups to basically get an understanding if it was essential to have this location in that space. Would it essentially impact the success, or if it was taken out, would it have a severe negative impact on the ability for us to plan for that space adequately? They told us that it could potentially come out. It wouldn't be a huge impact, but it would be beneficial if it could stay in naturally. So that approach was that leaving it in is more beneficial, but it would not be to the complete detriment of a proposed small area plan for it. So the item then went back to Planning Commission with that in mind. I think there was a split vote on the motion, which you'll see in the minutes in the packet, about some of the concerns. One of the things that staff had recommended initially was that if the use were to change, or if Planning Commission and City Council are to recommend approval of it and to approve it, staff's recommendation is to retain or to require a wetlands delineation, which would help to identify where the wetlands are on that site. And anywhere that's identified in wetland would remain in the SP, land use and SP zone, and anywhere outside of that then could potentially change zoning if that were approved. That's kind of just the background on the project. I don't have significant details on the proposed use of the site if it were to change. That's something that the applicant can probably elaborate on if they have that information. But I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have on issues and concerns related to it. As I mentioned, staff's initial recommendation was to deny it. The preference still is to retain that as marina use. We have significant, we've already lost some space down there. It's not a use that we can gain elsewhere in the city like we can with some of our other zones. So the preference would be to retain that land use and zoning. However, we have alternative plans if needed, if that's a direction that the council wants to go.
So I'll just be very forthright that I feel along the same lines of what you just mentioned. We have very little land down there already. I had heartburn when we did it to the land similar
Just to the east.
to the east.
Yeah.
It's shoreline protection, and it seems like an about face to go to an industrial, which is like a dramatically different zone. Not that I'm recommending that we do a different zone, but just the idea of us, instead of protecting something, we're gonna make it industrial. I would like to see that continue to be preserved. There's a reason that it's in shoreline protection. We wanna have that. Other places around the lake are making changes to protect their shoreline, to increase their protections. I would hate for us to be the only ones going the other way and we're building industrial use right on the edge of the lake. So I feel I'm right in the same line with you. It gives me a little bit more comfort knowing that it's been that way for a long time. It's been shoreline protection for a long time, so it's not like the applicant didn't know that when they had the land.
Sure. I know one of the concerns that was brought up, and it's impactful already to the east, but there is land dedicated to the city already that's currently in city ownership that I believe happened during the annexation process.
Oh, good.
Where there's
The trail.
the shoreline trail.
Yeah.
One of the concerns that was brought up was just related to the potential impact that it might have, or the appeal of whether there's a harsh use for such a long portion of the trail, and how that would impact the enjoyment or the use of that. Naturally, hard to speak to the specifics of what impact that would be without getting some further information on what that use would be for the location. I think the challenge is understanding what a use being proposed might be is one thing, but there are a list of other uses that if the zone change that were to happen, that any of the permitted
could
uses
be used for any of
could
those.
still happen. So I know that was a concern that was raised to staff, and something that we were conscious of.
So I tend to agree with Stacy, and the problem I have, and I know, we allowed what we did further east, but this is a contiguous spot to our existing marina zone, which is critical to me. And for the benefit of Mr. Sweat and Mr. Roderick, I completely believe, and I went through the notes, all of the notes from Planning Commission, and I believe you have been a good partner. I believe you've been a great citizen. I think those developments down there are great. And I know much is incumbent upon different things, like if the lake were to get cleaned up. But if we make this move, it doesn't matter whether the lake gets cleaned up or not. And we've lost it. We've just lost it. And I don't know, I have heartburn with that as well. I feel like we've brought that about as close as we want. And if there is anything really progressive and cool, and we've had multiple presentations from skating rinks to all sorts of things that could happen down there, I mean, we've just lost that opportunity if we change the zone right there. So while I completely wholeheartedly endorse you as a great partner, I have a really hard time changing the zone right down here on this and going that way. So that's how I feel.
I'm prepared, and because you are such a good partner, if there's something that you want, maybe it hasn't been said or read in the packet, I'm happy to give you some time to come up and address this as we're kind of going through this process.
I'm Ben Wheat. I work for Roderick Enterprises. I'm over the development and leasing of the company. Mike Roderick is sitting back there with me. He's our general partner and CEO. Just a couple of things in terms of background. We did go to Planning Commission the first time. There was only 4 members. 3 voted yes. The 4th didn't feel like she should say yes and wanted to table it, so we did that back. And then Planning Commission, everyone voted yes, except for, I think it was Christine that voted no on both. It's important to remember too, we've got 2 different applications here. We have a land use map and we have a zone change. The current zoning in that district is M1. So I can go do boat storage. I can go put up very similar to my neighbor to the west. So in terms of like the industrial uses and those types of things, I wouldn't have to do anything, and I could go build an industrial use facility there. I don't know if in terms of who's gone down there to see our project in comparison to what's around us. That aerial right there we've got pulled up, we've got 4 buildings built. Mm-hmm. We've got a total of 9 planned. We just went through a 28-month deliberation with the city on the last 4 buildings to the west that we will start in Q1 of next year. Those are Class A industrial buildings that we feel are a huge complement to that industrial zone for American Fork City. Our tenants that we have down there in the 4 buildings now consist of Amazon, Builders First Source. Builders First Source moved 4 of their locations in 4 different municipalities into that facility. We did that. We were able to convince them to do that by a multitude of attributes that we were able to offer within that facility. We offer 4 rows of parking in front of the building. We have a full 6-foot concrete fence that shades us from everything else, from the city to the batch plant to the rock crushing facility, to Phelon's dirt pile that's to the south of the 1700 South. We appreciate the comments that were made in terms of our partnership with the city. We hold that stuff near and dear to our hearts. These 4 buildings, we've got 3 others in North Point. We've been developing in American Fork City for over a decade. We have 0 interest and 0 plans to sell any of this stuff, so we build this stuff a little bit nicer. We build it to last. We build it to attract tenants like Amazon, like Builders First Source. This 18.70 acres, the reason we originally purchased this, we had no intention of purchasing this. It's 6 feet above, it's 6 feet below the floodplain. When we did our annexation for the 86 acres above this, that road is built one foot above the floodplain. And the reason that was designed like that, and the reason that was listed in the annexation agreement, was everything south of 1700 South was going to be, to your point, shoreline protection. During COVID, when Phelon acquired the acres to the east of this project, to say that we were concerned with the uses that he was forthright that was going to go in there was a huge concern for us. We obviously put our concern in there. We put they went through an annexation process that's referred to as an island annexation that required them not to notice any neighbor within 500 feet. So we were blindsided. Unfortunately, we were too late. They were granted the zone change, and we now have a rock crushing facility, approximately 30,000 cubic acres of dirt piled up, and a concrete batch plant. And that's why we bought the 18.7 acres, to protect our $200+ million investment that we've made to the north. With trying to...
Ben, I'm going to ask you to speed this up.
I apologize.
Okay?
It's a lot for us.
And
near
there's
dear
a
to
lot
us.
of that we already know. We know the votes. Just tell us something we don't know, Ben.
The 18.7 acres is going to help us facilitate trying to get... We build these things, we invest all this capital in the buildings, speculative. We start these buildings with no tenant in mind, and this 18.7 acres is going to require a huge infrastructure if we develop it. There's tenants more and more that need parking, that need storage, that we've had to say no to, that would have brought sales income tax to our park, to the city. This is just trying to get this in line with the other 86 acres that we have to the north to facilitate casting that net to as many tenants as we possibly can. In between the one thing that in terms of knowing what you don't know versus the one thing that Patrick, I think, didn't mention is between the first planning commission, the second planning commission, that third-party report, and correct me if I'm wrong, this property was taken out of that third-party consideration. I guess this is what you,
Yeah, that's what he said, and
So-
that's in the packet. We have that.
Yeah, so not essentially taken out, it's because there's no final plan in place. We're on a conceptual level as we look into the ability to fund it. Their preference is that it would be left in, but if it does come out, they could still plan around it, but you're planning around taking something out too.
because it's zone marine, we're never going to build an ice skating rink. We're never going to build an RV park. It's the facilities that are allowed within an M1 zone doesn't allow us to complementarily support what we've got going to the north. We've got a 10-year plus record with the city. We've never sold anything. We've brought in tons of companies that are publicly traded, top 500 companies that produce a ton of sales tax for the company. For the city, what we're trying to do here is just supplement and have a complementary use to that. And I would just ask the council to consider the record with Roderick, what we've developed so far in the city, everything that we've done, and what we're trying to accomplish. And we're never going to build a batch plant. We're never going to build a rock crushing facility. That's why we bought it. We just want to be able to have we just want to be able to, the money that we've invested in this, we want to be able to support the uses that we've got going to the north. And I hope the city understands that we are a good partner. We want to do the right thing. We want to bring companies in that support the city, and understanding that we have the lake there, the shoreline, the wetland delineation. We would have to do that with the site plan. That's always historically been involved with the site plan. You guys would, if whatever we develop this thing with, you guys would come and the way the code is written, you would see whatever we're going to develop in terms of a site plan. That site plan application would be coming with a wetland delineation. All we're asking for is a zone change to be able to help us complement the uses that we've got going to the north. Brad, I apologize for the long-windedness.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Yeah.
I apologize, Ben, I don't know why I said sweat. I know it's wheat, so sorry about that.
It's been worse.
All right, thank you very
Thanks.
much. I felt important. You know, I just, many know the mayor doesn't vote in any of this, but it is my prerogative to have an opinion. And I've read through this. I've been down there. I can't say I've been down there within the last couple weeks, but that's where I kind of get a little bit of relief as I kind of drive down. And sometimes I'm surprised to see what we're creating. You know, we see it on paper, and then we approve things, and then I think, boy, yeah, now I remember this, and it becomes real. And I really appreciate the fact that there is an economy that we're running here, that we're bringing people in. There is, you know, because that is something that is on our minds all the time. How do we make good use and bring in more tax revenue and be good stewards to that revenue? But I think there becomes a point in time when you get by sensitive lands like this that you have to kind of put that on a shelf and kind of weigh it out. It's not a real black or white thing. There's in fact, I'd call it, it's not a plus or minus, it's an equation. And part of that equation, as I see this, and this, again, my opinion is that this is going to be here forever. It's where people used to hunt pheasants. It's where people could, and there is areas that it just feels sensitive, and up near that lake, in my opinion, I echo what Councilmember Taylor and Councilmember Carroll said. This is an area that is too sensitive to put a dollar price on it. And if something changes down the road in years, and maybe we're not even sitting in these chairs and it's reapproached, then maybe people will look at it differently. But I feel like it's just some really neat land, and it's viewed. I have a lot of hope in Utah Lake. I chaired the Utah Lake Commission for 2 years and sat on that board for 4. And I know it feels like an uphill battle, but I feel like we're starting to gain some ground on what the lake is, the resource that it can be. The state is now buying into it as a resource to make it clean. and it's going to take decades, if not longer. It's going to take a lot of money, I would guess, but it's there. And that whole ecosystem of Utah Lake feeds into the Great Salt Lake, is what we hear about on the news all the time. And so I am concerned of what people will see why they're in the lake, even though they might not get in it a lot. But one day that lake has the ability to be thriving. And so I'm sensitive to this little area. So that's my opinion. So is there any questions that others have or opinions you want to express?
Mayor, if I could, I just wanted to make sure, I actually, I had forgotten that we had had a conversation about this very thing, and I called David and we chatted today. My initial instinct is that I want to protect that for the very limited uses that you're talking about. To me, it's a huge risk to potentially look at changing that. I was reminded by David that the reason we talked about potentially, or maybe this third party is willing to consider taking it out, is because of the location of the TSSD lift station. And so it will dissect this M1 space anyway, as I understand it. David, maybe you could speak to that, or Patrick. I want to make sure I'm understanding that.
So one of the bits of information that we received from TSSD was when they were coming in, because they're going through the concept of preparing for annexation. One of the things that they saw in terms of, or that they provided to us in terms of conceptual design, is a wetlands park. So it would be low impact. They would still have some of their specific uses for TSSD, but the majority of the space that they were showing to us conceptually was above where the road and the trail area would be following per the master plan, and would act as an additional buffer to that area and constrain their use kind of to the northern space. Now, David, you might have more information on
Can you show me where
but-
that is? Just,
So can you see this image here?
yeah,
So if you see in the blue shaded area, it says resort.
right.
There's a parcel that's shaped like the state of Utah, kind of, but it has a little segment that comes over to Boat Harbor Road. So the intent is that there will be a road that will connect on to Boat Harbor Road and come through that area, tie on to 1700 South. And within that northern area, Timpanogos Special Service District would relocate the sewer lift station, fully enclosed. Currently, it's right on the corner of 1500 South, and I don't know if I can point to this. Currently, the lift station's about right here,
Right where that little square is.
that little square right there.
And
And
they're
the
proposing
intent,
to move it into the top right corner of that.
the intent is to move it here. And so it would be a completely enclosed facility. It'll actually, the renderings I've seen look more like a barn. I mean, you won't know that it's a facility for TSSD. The remaining portion down here, TSSD has the intent of doing wetland mitigation down there. So it would be an open preserve. It would be more like a boardwalk into the wetland area. And that's what they would intend to do with the remainder of their property down here. There already are several wetlands on that parcel. And so they would just enhance those as they develop, this parcel up here.
So from an M1 marina, some sort of a enhancing the marina standpoint, that actually is, I guess if there's no way to get from the marina side across TSSD's either development or wetland protection, trying to create some sort of marina space further east of that in the subject parcel or shoreline side seems not realistic, I guess. I would love to have something more that we could do there, but I can't imagine, unless I'm misunderstanding how that's gonna flow.
Why wouldn't you be able to cross? 'Cause-
Well, it's wetland, and so it's not like there's gonna be this contiguous marina.
But
type development.
wetlands can't go, utility lines can't go through wetlands, is
They
that what I
can.
read?
That's what I read, is that underground utilities can't be,
Kent?
are not subject to wetland, Army Corps of Engineer. Again, I'm reading that from the packet.
Right, say.
Because the wetlands would be restored on the surface.
top.
Mhm. So a pipeline can go through there.
But we couldn't build a,
You can build like a boardwalk park.
And the intention is that the trail that will come through, it'll actually come all the way through the TSSD. This parcel right here, this purple shaded area, this is Timpanogos Special Service District. That's where the plant itself is. And so the trail, the shoreline trail will actually come all the way through there, through these parcels here, underneath this, and then through this resort area, TSSD's property, and come back over to Boat Harbor Road and then continue around the lake. The intention is that trail circumscribes the entire
Okay.
lake.
so it can still be approved as a trail system or wetland
Yeah.
habitat or something, but not a developed marina, RV park, or,
Yeah. TSSD doesn't have any intention of developing it into a marina or a park.
that's where I'm struggling, because I just don't believe that there's gonna be this, marina that surrounds the boat harbor, and then this massive, that's more than 18.70 acres, based on just looking at the size of the red square or shape versus the blue Utah State. So it's 25 acres-ish.
Yeah.
To then go from that to, I don't know,
I'm looking at it kind of the opposite. I'm thinking you have like a wetland park proposal, and right next to it you'd have like an industrial use, potentially, if that's what happens. So we're just pulling up a map here, so I can look at it again.
I wish to heck we hadn't done Lakeland. And it ticks me off that
That we had
for
done-
whatever reason that happened. And I'll go on the record again, and I'm sure somebody could tell me that it was not something we could have affected, but it was a poor decision. And the discussion when we approved Lakeland was based on, well, there was one next door, and so we have to do that. Well, if that's the basis for this, then we sure as heck better be saying the same thing right now, that, well, we kind of have to do that, because right now we have another industrial use right there. And if we've set a precedent and we approved one before, it just bothers me that we can't just make a decision based on what's best for the area, and we have to try and,
I feel, maybe I could be wrong on this. I feel like we can, particularly when it's right next to the marina resort area and designated as shoreline protection. I feel like there's a lot of justification there for us to be able to do what we need to do right there. I don't know.
That goes back to my comment of it being the parcel that is contiguous with the marina zoned area. So that's why I thought, yeah, you know what, hindsight's 20/20 on Lakeland. But this one is right next to that. We wouldn't be jumping acreage and going that way. And I can't forecast when I see that, and I go back to what the mayor said. Future councils may say, no, this would be much better as industrial, and they can change that out. And the Rodericks will have the prerogative to do that. But I don't want to give it up just yet. If I had a decision, I think it would be, I would appreciate those guys being the stewards of that land from the type of building and development that they've proven themselves with. But still, if we give that up, that's my heartburn, because it is the piece that is, directly borders our zone there. So I can see it from both sides, but right now I feel like the best thing for us to do is to protect that.
Address the council, please.
sure.
I'm Michael Roderick. We're the owner of the project, and Ben did an excellent job explaining why we bought this. Frankly, we bought it, like Ben said, just to protect our multi-million-dollar investment here. We did not want another batch plant. We did not want another rock crushing facility. We wanted to protect what was originally going to be our front yard. We had to redo our entire plan, master plan, buildings, everything, throw away many hundreds of thousands of dollars of plans to redraw the entire master plan when the batch plant and the rock crushing facility were allowed to go in here. So we bought it to protect that. All we're trying to do is figure out a way to help implement and help maximize the rest of our park and complement our park. There's no way we will ever build a batch plant, a rock crushing facility, any nasty, dirty industrial. We just flat out won't do it. That's who we are as people. We don't fish for that kind of uses. We want corporate uses, but sometimes we need to provide these corporate clients additional parking, additional inventory type procedures. Solar, we've had tenants we couldn't handle that wanted to have clean solar use to help power their facilities. So it's just to enhance the park. We're not trying to do anything at all nasty, dirty, like our neighbors are.
You know what, before we put that up, Ben, I'm sorry, and I hope I'm not being bullish about this or prideful, but Ben, I haven't seen what, are we putting something up?
Just Google Maps.
Okay, I just appreciate you running it past me.
Sorry, ask Patrick.
I just try to, if I'm not careful,
No.
I will have everybody trying to run a meeting.
That's why I asked Patrick. My apologies.
Well, that's all I'm trying to do. I just want to be treated like the rest of the neighbors in the community. Thank you.
Okay, council, other thoughts? And if we
let
feel
it
strong
go,
enough,
If we let it move from shoreline protection, you can't bring it back. That's my concern.
I have a quick question. Can we go back to the other map real quick? I was asking Ryan about this. Is this shoreline, is the Lakeland Industrial Park, is that still shoreline protection? Or did that?
Yes.
So that didn't change the land use?
Correct.
So why are we changing the land use for this
The
one?
city
but we didn't?
requires us to do it. So it's currently zoned M1.
Well, I guess I'm just wondering, why didn't we
Are-
change the land use for the Lakeland Industrial?
I can't speak to why that didn't happen on it. Proper planning practices that your land use and your zoning should match one another, and our city code requires that. So that's why, I'm not looking at the other projects, that's why in this instance, that's the process that we follow. Since I came to the city, that's the process we've required of everyone.
And so we're not gonna make Lakeland change their land use?
They're already doing what they
Okay.
want to do. That's it.
It's already a batch plant concrete portion.
Okay.
So that's what's ironic. There's a significant industrial use happening in a shoreline protection area, which seems counterintuitive, right? That, I think is,
Yeah.
and I don't want to speak for you,
That's
Stacy,
not-
but
that's
that's my
my
concern too.
issue,
If
yeah.
we're going to keep it as a shoreline protection, we shouldn't be allowing the ability to have a heavy industrial component there.
Yeah. If it's marina, you can't do that. You can only do it in industrial.
Right, so the marina, they couldn't do that. You can
No,
zone M1, right?
It's already zoned marina. So
That's correct.
I can go build a boat storage, I can do a bunch of different stuff already in the shoreline protection. I wouldn't
But
have
you can't
to
do a batch plant.
He doesn't want to do a
What
batch
about,
plant.
what about a parking
Correct, I
lot?
cannot do a batch
Yeah,
plant.
you can, okay.
What about a parking lot in M1?
You can't do outside storage. You can do boat storage, it's not, you can't do.
But a parking lot for,
It's not allowed use defined in the M1 zone. And again, this is yet, and I apologize, I'm trying not to be long-winded. There's two applications, there's a land use and there's a zone change. The city's requiring us to do the land use because of the zone change. Zone change is going from marina to industrial. Industrial is everything to the east, it's just gonna match that purple map right there. We're gonna match the 5 acres that was illegally subdivided from this parcel originally, plus the Lakeland subdivision that has Phelan's dirt pile, the batch plant, and Dunn's rock crushing facility.
Okay. Yeah.
TSSD can do whatever they want. They don't even need to annex into the city. They can do their parcel is not annexed into the city right now. They can go do their 15-acre sewage plant that stinks.
They will be annexing into the city, just to be clear.
All right, I'm going to close public comment. We're going to deliberate right here, and let's make a decision. Where does the council want to go? Is there any strong?
Tim had a question, I don't know the answer to it.
I guess I'm just trying to still figure out, I agree that whatever we did in the past shouldn't really dictate what we're doing now. I guess we're trying to figure out what the city wants to do with the shoreline protection. Like, if we want to protect this area, then no matter what we did in the past, we shouldn't do it again. I don't know why, just because we made a mistake in the past. I'm not saying it was a mistake, but a past mistake doesn't mean we should make a similar mistake. Yeah. And I'm just trying to figure out, so this M1, so to change it to an M1, or change it from an M1 zone, you need to change the land use first. So you can't change the zone to an industrial zone unless you change the land use from shoreline
Best
protection.
practice to do that.
Code required.
I'm probably in favor with Councilmember Clark and Taylor and Carroll. I think it's something that maybe, I don't know if we want to table it. I don't feel comfortable voting yes to changing the land use in the zone at this point. So I don't know if we could table it or just say no and have it come back through the process. But I think that we want to keep this shoreline protection for right now as a city. And so I would probably, as I said, either want to table it or say no, and then we can bring it later.
Well, there's been a lot of thoughts. I think that the best way to bring this to some closure is a motion, and we'll just see where a motion goes and where it doesn't go, and that's how we solve it.
Well, with listening to everybody, feel free to do what you want, but with this motion, but I am going to move to deny the resolution approving the proposed land use map amendment located at approximately 100 East, 1700 South, from the shoreline protection designation to the design industrial designation.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll,
Second.
second by Councilmember Holly. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Item number 5 is review and action on an ordinance approving a zone change known as Roderick Catalyst Business Park located at approximately 100 East, 1700 South on approximately 18.86 acres. The property proposes to change from the M1 zone to the industrial zone. I have a motion.
The same one.
How does that work?
I'm curious why we.
We don't need to do it.
Yeah,
We need to, yeah, do we have to actually deny it?
Just to keep the record clean, I would go through that process.
Okay. I move to deny the proposed change located at approximately 100 East, 1700 South American Fork from M1 Marina Zone to the I1 Industrial Zone. Yeah.
a motion by Councilmember Carroll,
Second.
second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on the motion? All right, I will start with Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye.
Councilmember Holly,
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Mayor, I guess I'm losing something here, but because I appreciate Mike and Ben and what they've done. That's never been an issue. But by owning the property, am I seeing something wrong? By owning the property, they control whether or not a batch plant or a rock crushing plant or any other kind of dirty industry comes in there, right? So they just can't, oh, Ben's still here.
Well, I mean, I don't speak for Ben,
So
obviously.
they can't do a parking lot in an M1, apparently, outdoor storage.
I would guess to say that they bought it to protect it, but then they want to get some kind of return on that investment.
Sure, absolutely.
And so that's what I would guess is that, hey, we had to buy this to protect ourselves, so what are the best ways we could economize this land? I don't speak for them, obviously, but that would be my guess.
Yeah.
And why would they want to do that?
Yeah, and I didn't want to open up another camp that was just on my mind of they own it,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, I'm going to move on to item number 6, is a review and action on approval of the city's crosswalk policy. This was an item, if you think back, it's been a while, but we did have it in a work session, and we wanted to button it up and bring it before you. Any questions? Sam, I'll just say, stay and wait there, but I don't force anybody up here unless I feel like they're needed, or these guys feel.
Mayor,
like
I'd like to hear Sam's opinion on it.
Sam, could you give us like a 40-minute presentation?
40 minutes?
Councilmember Carroll had a few questions earlier today, and I talked to Ben about that, and Ben's ready to probably address some of those questions that you had.
I'm actually Sam, not Ben, that's okay.
Not Ben,
We got about
Sam.
the same.
They're
kind of
both
hair.
3 letters, 2 consonants of vowel.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, David had briefly mentioned that he had some concerns about some of the items in that workflow and that flow chart. And I think, and like I said, I guess just to preface, we brought this forward just because we had brought it to a work session in March and just trying to go ahead and finalize it. If there are some concerns, we have no problem taking it back and looking at it and addressing them. But some of the comments that David had mentioned that you had shared with him were about some of the pedestrian generators and still the use of engineering judgment, and those items are in there.
I did not question engineering judgment, just
No,
to
no,
be
no.
clear.
Well, you did when we were talking.
But it's not just going to be follow these, and if it's this, it's yes, and if that, it's no. There are some other things in there that kind of make it to where we will be looking at some items. It's not just going to be, we have a crosswalk here, and we allow it, and then someone a few blocks away can say, well, you allowed it for them, why aren't you doing it for us? I mean, there's other criteria. You have pedestrians, you have vehicles, and then you also have generators as well, whether it's a park, a school, some other things like that are actually outlined on one of the sheets. And as well as engineering judgment, where we can look at it, and if it's safe and it makes sense. So
You mean there's common sense in this?
there is some common sense.
Wait a second.
Okay, so I have a couple of thoughts. One is, I'm a little bit unclear on what the policy is for then. I would hate it to just be kind of on the books that we can use then when we're like trying to like deter someone from doing it. Like, well, our policy says that we can't do it kind of thing. My second thought, and this is kind of you addressed this, is that on the pedestrian crossing flowchart for an uncontrolled approach, the second bubble is meet pedestrian volumes, and yet and that's kind of the yes or no that determines which way it goes. And pedestrian volume is really hard to tell when you haven't built the facility to allow pedestrians, so there might be some pent-up demand, or people might be going a different route because they don't feel like it's a safe route.
Right.
So that was the crux of my original concern, was that pedestrian volumes question.
Right, and to that point, we've actually exercised this. There's a neighborhood in the northeastern part of town, and there's a specific neighbor up there who's been
Yes,
requesting
yeah.
that we have a crosswalk in place. And that would be, and although that's a little bit different scenario because there's a school there,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
then you kind of transition away from our mid-block or our crosswalk policy into more of a school policy,
sure.
which is then we fall underneath the Utah MUTCD, which is an acronym that I'm sure you guys are all aware of.
Oh, we know
But-
all
Right.
acronyms.
But anyways, to your point, you know, and if there is demand, but then you also look, okay, if we go out and count it and there isn't any pedestrians, or there's a few and they're jaywalking, but there's a request, and then is it within 2 blocks of that pedestrian generator? And that would be the next bubble to the right there. And if it is, then you go ahead and you scroll down and say, well, then you only need half of those pedestrians to meet that requirement instead of the 20 or 30 or whatever it is. If there are a few and there is a generator, whether it's by a park, I think we have listed there a park, a senior center, a library, a hospital, and things like that, then we can take that into account, understanding that, yes, if we go out there and look, there's only 3 or 4, but we know that there's a park, we know there's a new pickleball court there or whatnot, there's going to be people going there, this does make sense, and then we could go ahead and go through that flow and build it. But if someone's saying they just want it, and you're in the middle of nowhere,
Which does happen
and there's no generator, it really doesn't make any sense.
I think when I was looking at this, I was thinking of 1120 North. We've had quite a few different discussions about 1120 North, having crosswalks there.
At Hunter Park, is that where?
Yeah, but probably not even.
And further
Yeah,
east.
further east from there. And I think that they wouldn't meet pedestrian volumes and they're, oh, I don't have my mic on. And they're not within 2 city blocks of a pedestrian generator. So I don't know that they would actually qualify under this. And yet, a layperson like me is like, hey, there's houses on both sides of the street and a park further down. Like, it seems like they should have a place to cross.
And you know, that one has a different, it's a very wide road.
Yeah, it has a wide road.
So I mean,
And fast, and a lot of traffic.
and in that
Street
case,
isn't
I
that
mean,
way median.
in those cases, we would set up time to meet with those residents that are requesting that. We would go out at certain times and count and collect, and I mean, for us, I mean, the data has to support that need, right? Is there, it'd be interesting to know why are they wanting to cross if if the park is way over here and the school is here and there's really nothing in between, it'd be interesting to know why. And if it's vehicles, if there needs to be a signal there, I mean, we could go through a lot of things and look at it, but I mean, we're just trying to do the best we can to make it as objective as possible.
Yeah, agreed. And it
One
would be nice
of
to have
the
some
one of the
parameters.
criteria is always, is there a safety concern?
Yeah.
And if there's a safety concern, whether there's a generator or whether there's, a school or some other thing, but if there's still a safety concern, then we can still consider a pedestrian crosswalk in that area. And again, that comes down to some judgment. We would definitely look at the data that we have, see if there's any kind of conflict that we've been able to see or crashes, things like that. But if there's a safety concern, we can always assess that, and it may warrant a crosswalk,
Okay.
even without the generators.
That's when that common sense comes
That engineering
Yeah,
judgment
I
thing.
just, once
The
again,
swore
then
she
let's,
said
in, for the public record.
none of those are in the policy itself.
If you read that first paragraph, under criteria for warranting a pedestrian crosswalk, again, that last item says, it does talk about vehicular traffic, pedestrian volumes, spacing, generators, sight distance, and safety concerns. I mean, I know that's an all-encompassing paragraph there. There's a lot there. But it is intended to give us flexibility so that we can put these in the appropriate locations.
Plus it's got that acronym in there.
MUTCD, Manual of Traffic Control, something.
MUTCD, yeah.
Yeah. That's one that's quoted to me. I get it, but it's like, to determine whether a crosswalk is warranted, the flow chart outlined in figure 1 shall be followed, which doesn't allow for any safety concerns at all in the flow chart. Oh, except for the first one, which is at a controlled intersection, but not for uncontrolled.
If you go to the next page there. If you look at the flow chart here, it does say, is there a safety or capacity concern?
Yeah, that's for the controlled intersection.
Yeah, this one's a controlled.
And in
keep
the
going.
next one,
Keep going down.
there is a box there that says, note, if there is a history of pedestrian-related crashes, then a crosswalk should be considered. So there is that in there as well.
Pedestrian-related crashes. I don't think I'm gonna win on this one. I don't know how to personally delineate between where it's gonna go. I feel like there's multiple places where we've talked about needing crosswalks that we've kind of been waiting for a policy here that none of those crosswalks weren't
This doesn't
qualified.
meet the criteria, yeah. That's tough.
I think there's some value in the process though too, because just because I live on a busy street and I want to be able to cross the street to go to my church
Yeah.
because that's where I go. I mean, that's literally my personal experience.
True.
I have to walk up the street,
Yeah,
a block,
right.
cross the road, come back down a block.
True.
Then I can start going to my church.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the questions that was mentioned earlier is, well, if the park's over there and there's a crosswalk over there, why not stay on your side of the street and go to the park? Well, it's because I want to go to the church,
Right.
right? Well, I don't know that it's good policy personally if I just get enough of my neighbors to come and complain long enough, and
Agreed.
that's my point. And
See,
so
like,
following
yeah.
this process, does allow us to say, does it fit or does it not fit? And if it doesn't, well, okay, let's use some common sense. But I don't think trying to slow traffic down on 1120, I use that
That's
road
not-
all the time.
yeah.
That's not reason enough in my mind to say, well, we got to just put 3 extra crosswalks in here.
No, I
And
would-
same thing on First East.
would
Well, if
hope
that's the
that.
case, if we start dropping crosswalks all across 1120, I promise you, me and my neighbors are coming in, and we're gonna have one across the street from my house.
You'd have to go to the state for that though, right?
Yes.
Well, whatever.
We don't have to go into that
Then I fully enhance, if we do approve this, or don't approve this, and we say we need to change it so that we can have that kind of a, then great, we'll have the council on board to support us when we do go to the state. But that's, I guess, my point is that I hope that we can trust that a process, I don't know that anyone's gonna say, no, you're not having a crosswalk if there's a genuine issue.
Need.
If it's lazy, because I'm too lazy to walk down the street or walk up a block across the street at the controlled intersection and back down, maybe I should just consider, well, I'm trying to walk somewhere, I could go the extra block and a half and go to the crosswalk. That's, I guess, I literally live that at minimum every Sunday.
Well, and I'm not one to even like constantly want crosswalks because it's actually unsafe for pedestrians to have a random crosswalk sign.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so it needs to be thought through and logical. I've always been, we've been talking about putting parameters in for so long. I am completely in favor of this. Maybe we just go with it and see how it works.
Is there a policy that we can consider every factor though?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I don't think
so
there really
I
is.
love the common sense, the 3 times, that there is the ability to actually look at something that is very unique, and it would have to be that to be able to even be looked at. I had a gentleman that put a lot of pressure on me a couple of years ago about just one, it's down there by Duff Shelley, and it was just for his wife.
Oh.
Yeah, so he wanted it for his wife.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so,
I would just like to frankly remove the language of things like the notes, pedestrian-related crashes. I think that's rough to have it. Oh, so we have to have a couple people
Yeah.
get hit in order for us to make a move on this. I mean, I honestly would like to take that out. I think that's just a given.
I think
Yeah, think about
given
general
is just traffic
safety
data,
concerns.
or having a term there, but maybe take out some of the,
I can just see someone coming in and holding this up to us. So how many more people need to be hit here in order for you to, I would appreciate that coming out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can modify that.
Mayor, please, no, Ryan, go right ahead.
Mayor, I'd like to hear what Councilmember Taylor has to say.
I'd like to yield my time to Councilmember Hunter for a motion.
So with those minor tweaks to verbiage in the pedestrian crashes
Taking out
or
the
whatever,
notes. Yeah.
take those, modify that, but I would move to adopt the city's crosswalk policy.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I will call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye. Great work, Ben, thank you.
I'm sorry, Sam.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, item number 7 is review and action on award of the contract for the debris removal from the American Fork Debris Basin contracted to, what do we say, is that Perco?
Perco.
I thought, is that Perco Rock Company? Any questions on this?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
I have I know it is pretty straightforward, but I do have something. Just something I was looking at is this, with the bid schedule. I was noticing that they were significantly lower than all the other ones. Everything else. They were even $100,000 under the engineer's estimate. And I'm obviously not an engineer. I'm not an expert in any of these things. But just every now and then we get residents who complain about, you get what you pay for. And I did read I guess the engineers know, saying that they do have a history, something like that. So I worry, and that's all, I just wanted to make a note, like, I don't want us to just get the cheapest one, just because it is the cheapest one, but making sure that we get quality work when we do certain things, so that there aren't issues. That's all, my only comment, is that just because they were so much lower than the other ones, and even our own estimate, that I just wanted to bring that up. See, like, making sure that it's not just the lowest bid, but it is quality work that we've seen from them in the past.
Right, and we had the same concerns, and we called the references, we actually called that company as well to make sure they didn't miss anything, because usually when someone's that much lower, they totally miss something, but everyone we talked to, the first thing they said, you mean that they were really cheap? And we said, yeah, they're quite a bit. And he's like, yeah, they are, and they do good work. And we called them, they didn't have a problem with the price that they had submitted. So yeah, there wasn't any alarms for us besides just the fact that they were so low, but that's a good thing. That means we don't have to pay as much in the match.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Holly, I don't think you ever need to worry about apologizing for not being an engineer. Anyone can do it, so we all just take that road here.
Just in general, when we put projects out to bid, we are required to take the low bidder unless there's a deficiency or something wrong with the bid that they submitted. So that is, and a lot of times we're dealing with the companies who are, you know, they're giving us their best possible price, and if there's anything that goes wrong, it can really hurt. It can significantly impair the project. And we understand that, and that happens. But in this case, I had the same questions, council member, that you had. And when I talked to Sam and knew that we had called references and we had checked the company out, and we called the company to say, are you sure you didn't miss something? Because you've left a lot on the table. So we did some due diligence there. Thank you.
Mayor, I move that the city award the debris removal from the American Fork Debris Basin contract in the amount of $179,920 to the apparent low bidder Perco Rock Company, and approve the construction contract as presented, and adjust our mics that they're not so sensitive.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 8, matter of our public hearing today, review and action on acceptance of an easement located at approximately 100 East 620 South.
I'd move to accept the easement at approximately 100 East 620 South.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Holly. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I will call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Item number 9 is a review and action on an ordinance approving the vacation of surplus right-of-way located at approximately 100 East 620 South.
Mayor, I'd move to adopt the ordinance approving vacation of the surplus right-of-way located at approximately 100 East 620 South. Thanks for making that adjustment, George.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor. What was second? Councilmember Hunter. That was a second. Any discussion on it? Okay, I will move for vote. Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Item number 10 is a review and agreement on a resolution approving amendments to the interlocal cooperation agreement with the intergovernmental program known as Utah County Major Crimes Task Force.
Mayor, I'd move to adopt the resolution approving the amendments to the interlocal cooperation agreement with Utah County Major Crimes Task Force.
Second.
You have a motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember John. Any discussion?
I just did have one question, and how come Eagle Mountain isn't in this? I went through all the cities, and all the cities up in Utah County are here, and Eagle Mountain's glaringly.
You know what? We have one of our lieutenants here. Speculation is that they're under the sheriff's department.
I was going to say it's
You know
Is
what,
it county?
Lieutenant
Yeah, but Utah
Archuleta, will you
County's
come
on there,
to the
so are they
mic,
covered
please?
under Utah County?
State your name for the public record.
Take 40 minutes, Archie. Just tell us what's going on. Why isn't Eagle Mountain in our interlocal agreement?
For the Major Crimes Task Force.
I think, well, when I was back on the team, they had deputies with their county team would go do stuff. It's Saratoga Springs that's not on theirs. That's not part of the program. But their county deputies will do stuff out there. Their task force team.
So then it's covered under the Utah County, because
Yeah, the
Utah County
the
is, okay,
county is
that was my
their
question.
police
That
services.
answers the question. Their task force set team will go out there and do some stuff.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Archuleta, for the public record. Okay, did I have a motion? And a
Yeah,
second?
vote.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hunt
all right,
for
we're
John.
going for a vote. Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye.
Councilmember John,
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter,
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Item number 11 is a review and action on approval of a water banking agreement for water rights with Windy City Development LLC for 135.88 acre feet of water. It's a lot of water.
It is.
Yeah,
It's all blue water, but it's got a good priority date, so.
Great.
Mayor, I move to approve the water banking agreement for water rights with Windy City Development LLC for 135.88 acre feet of water and authorize the city to sign the agreement.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember John, second by Councilmember Hunter. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I will go for a vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Item number 12 is a review and action on a resolution approving the First Amendment to the interlocal agreement of the creation of a school district among the cities of Lehigh, Cedar Hills, Highland, Alpine, American Fork, and Draper.
Mayor, if I could, on this, if council is inclined to approve this, I would ask that it be subject to substantive changes approved by legal counsel. The various city attorneys are still working out the very fine-tuned language that doesn't really change the agreement at all, but that everybody has their own desired language, so.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
Mayor, with that, I would like to move to adopt a resolution approving the First Amendment to the interlocal agreement for the creation of a school district among the cities of Lehigh, Cedar Hills, Highland, Alpine, American Fork, and Draper, subject to the
Non-substantive.
Non-substantive
non-substantive legal
language changes?
Any changes approved by legal counsel that are non-substantive in nature.
That
Any
makes a really big
changes,
word.
any changes that are, yes, yeah, what Sherilyn has said, I think.
I'll
is
second.
Wonderful.
Okay, I do have a comment before we vote, actually, and it doesn't change my vote. I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this. And it's just that on 2.3 of this, it mentions the interlocal board. And I was talking to David about this. I don't know of anywhere, maybe in the original agreement, it talked about what the interlocal board was, but it's one of the things that have been a point of discussion this whole time. It would be nice at some point to actually define what that interlocal board is, so that we all have clarity.
I have in my head what it is, but I'm going to defer my interpretation of that is that it is the mayors of each city and they appoint an alternate if they're not able to.
Each city appointed their own member, so it's comprised of different individuals in different roles from different cities to make up that board. So some cities have their mayors as the appointed representative. I believe American Fork has Camden as its representative on the board.
See, this is why I'm a little
Wow.
unclear. Yeah, so was that defined in the original interlocal?
It was,
Okay.
and we brought a resolution forward to council for the appointment of Camden as the representative on that
I
board.
remember, I actually just, this
that's
is
right.
absolutely jogging my memory now. But we can change that appointment.
Correct,
So-
and
so-
there was an intent
Yeah.
in that as to why that was
Yeah.
the way that it was set
I
up.
remember that. Let me ask you this, Sherilyn, to make a different appointment, would that be substantive to this vote, or could we?
That would be something that this council could do
Gotcha.
to appoint American Fork's representative to that board.
I think as this progresses, that was really good strategy then. Are you aware of how other cities, have they made changes to that board, or
They
just
have
kept it?
not at this time. I mean, ultimately, the intent will be to have its own board, right?
Correct.
Sure.
And then we won't have to
This is
address
just like
that.
the board that can like, if there happens to need to be a vote on something
So-
in the interim.
So each city appointed, whether it be an administrator, a mayor, or an assistant city administrator, or a council member. So they're all, you don't have residents or even non-executive staff on that board.
Okay.
And I'm happy to discuss that with you a little bit more.
Well, I mean, I guess I just have maybe this is something to talk offline, but does this board does it just exist until the new elections happen next year? And then it just ceases to exist, like, so January 1st, 2026 or something, then that board will cease to exist as a body?
That's correct.
I think when we talked about having a staff member, it was just, there was a lot of time, and it was during daytime hours. It filled the need. But I think that I recommend that we just keep it the way it is, and let's flesh out what happens in the next 30 days, because I feel like we're gonna make a change to that board.
Yeah.
And so at least.
This
we'll
gives a
do it
lot of
as-
clarity that there's at least some sort of official board that has been.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for the discussion. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have a motion and I have a second, and I will call for a vote. Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 13 is review and action on an ordinance setting the dates, times, and places of the 2025 city council meetings.
Mayor, I move to adopt the ordinance setting the date, time, and place of city council meeting for 2025.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Holly, second by Councilmember John, and I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember John Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Item 14 is a consideration and action to enter into a closed session to discuss items described in Utah State Code 52-4-204 and 52-4-205. The purpose of this closed session is to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
So move, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hunter.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Holly, and I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, for the public record, we will meet in a closed session downstairs, and when we are done, we will open up the door and we'll close our city council meeting from the downstairs. Thank you for being here.